Hi everybody. Now, don't shoot me down if I've got some of the procedures wrong. To be honest, this has never happened before, whereby Stephen Avery will be the first person to be exonerated twice. So there's no precedent before in any of this. So this is purely speculation, but this is speculation from knowing and finding out bits about the case. And of course, we've always been interested in what would have happened had Teresa not disappeared. How convenient for Manitowoc was it that she did disappear, and then the case, the investigation steered straight towards Stephen Avery, because that was going to save the county literally millions. He ended up settling his lawsuit for just 400,000, and isn't it remarkable how 400,000 is just short of the 460,000 that he was going to get from Mark Gundrum. And apparently it was Vogel's insurance that paid out the 400,000. Some people are concerned, obviously, at the damage that will be done to Manitowoc County, Wisconsin in general. But well, we wait to see whether it's Manitowoc County that pay Steve when he is exonerated and compensated, and Brendan. We wait to see whether it's Manitowoc or Calumet. Calumet did the investigation. Maybe it'll be them. We just have to wait and see. As I say, there's no precedent here before, is there? So. But contrary to what some people think, it's not our fault, and it's not Kathleen Zellner's fault, and it's not the filmmaker's fault if this ends up costing Manitowoc a lot of money, which I'm sure it will. It's not our fault. It's not. I'll tell you whose fault it was. It was the state. They should have been much more proactive when Making a Murderer first came out. Instead, they just chose to bury their heads in the sand and pretend that nothing was going to happen. That is exactly the reaction I got from Robert Herman. He said that the documentary painted the town bad, but there was no sense of embarrassment whatsoever. And of course, eventually, once Kathleen Zellner filed a motion back in, I believe it was August of 2016, eventually in 2017, CASO reopened the investigation. But it was just a way of trying to cover up and speak to the protagonists and make sure, with the help of Diedering, to make sure that everybody was still batting on the same team. Now, as I say, when I first learnt about the case, I had a lot of conversations with Sheriff Herman, but I too got in touch with the city police department, not by mistake, no. I knew who I was speaking to, and I sent an email to the head of the city police department, Nick Reamer, and asked him why the city police department are not conducting an investigation of the sheriff department. A, an investigation, and then B, arresting the culprits in this framing of Stephen Avery. And he simply replied back that he doesn't have jurisdiction over the sheriff's department, and significantly at the bottom of the email simply said, "Take care." Well, veiled threat, okay, doesn't bother me. I once pointed out to Sheriff Herman that 100 million is the figure being speculated that Kathleen Zellner will be suing for. And if you take the population of Manitowoc County as being 80,000, well, 100 million is $1,250 per person. You know, boy, girl, man, woman, no matter, every single member of the population having to pay $1,250 in compensation. It's an amazing figure. The first wrongful conviction claim by Steve was only of 1.2 million. Of course, it escalated to 36 million. Why? Because of Peg Lautenschlager's report and the fact that they tried to cover up the phone call, the Colburn phone call, and that's why it suddenly jumped to 36 million. Also, it was the fact that Mark Gundram had only offered 450,000. And when you look at the figures, John Farrack did an article about wrongful convictions and the compensation that people get afterwards. And he was saying that, you know, on average, 450,000 is roughly what most people get per year, up to maybe $1 million per year. So based on those figures, in the Farrack article, we're looking at Steve getting somewhere between 8.5 and 18 million in settlement. Of course, interestingly, when I got in touch with Michael Griesbach, he said that the figure would have been between 3 to 5 million. And what's interesting about the 3 to 5 million is that the county's insurance covers these sort of cases up to the first 5 million. So what Michael Griesbach was saying was that, you know, the county wouldn't have cost the county anything. The insurance would have paid for it. Well, okay, but if it had been 8.5 million, then the county would have had to find 3.5 million. And had it been 18 million, there's every possibility that it would have been, you know, half of 36, 18 million. Then you're looking at the county having to find 13 million. As I say, there's no precedent for the second time round. The figure being suggested by Zellner is 100 million. Now, supposing she were to settle, and they were to settle for 50 million. Well, that means that the insurance covers the first 5 million. The county, or counties, then has to find 45 million in compensation. And you know, the whole of the annual budget, spending budget for the whole of Manitowoc County is only 80 million. So if Manitowoc County have to pay that 45 million, that is more than half of their annual spending budget. That certainly puts it into perspective, doesn't it? As we get further down the road, I wouldn't be at all surprised to see some non-Avery's, some residents of Manitowoc County deciding to leave, because, you know, where's that money going to come from? It's going to come from the taxpayers in Manitowoc. I can well imagine some people looking at the situation thinking, we're just going to sell up and leave. I wonder if it's too late, if it will have been too late for the city executives, you know, to get in touch with Steve and Kathleen Zellner, who will of course be acting as his civil rights lawyer, to try and negotiate some sort of easier and more manageable, easier to swallow compensation package. I would suggest to both Steve and to Kathleen Zellner that they take guidance from the way that William Wallace negotiated with the English army at Stirling. I'll leave the link below. Bye for now.